Welcome, welcome. My links are all working. Welcome, one and all, to the live reading of Chapter 1 of a new fan fiction I'm working on. Working title of it is Twisted Metal, Rules of Engagement by Spectre 2300, aka Dan Vetrano. Once again, Twisted Metal's been a long time one of my favorite video game series. In fact, first video game tournament I ever played in was for Twisted Metal 2. It was back in 2005, if I'm not mistaken, and I ended up taking first place. It felt great. But without further ado, let us proceed. Chapter 1, A Deal with the Devil. Calypso's skyscraper loomed high above the streets of Dallas, Texas. It was the home office of Calypso Industries, the leading manufacturer of medical and military technology in the world. The company was known for developing incredible breakthroughs in medicine and weaponry. It was no surprise to anyone that militaries and hospitals all over the world were offering contracts for Calypso to produce weapons and medical equipment. This obviously made him extremely wealthy. But the truth was not as it seemed. Calypso's company and his weapons manufacturing contract served as a front to his true passion, his annual contest known as Twisted Metal. Once a year, a number of competitors, handpicked by Calypso himself, would participate in a demolition derby in vehicles of their choosing. Each vehicle would be outfitted with a wide array of machine guns, rocket launchers, and various other weapons. Each driver would compete in a series of battles in hopes of being the sole survivor. The winner was granted an audience with Calypso and awarded their prize. Calypso would grant the winner one wish, anything the winner could possibly desire. There are no limits on price, size, or in some cases, reality. The price for losing, however, was often death. Some drivers did in fact survive, but often they were too traumatized to speak of what they had experienced. There were also many stories floating around that Calypso was known to twist people's wishes around and give them not what they wanted. Many groups and activists have called for the contest to be halted and Calypso brought to justice due to all the chaos and destruction it would inflict. These attempts have been constantly thwarted thanks to Calypso's wealth and political connections. Any government officials who have attempted to take Calypso down have met with heavy resistance. Their only chance has seemed for someone to win Twisted Metal and use the prize to defeat Calypso. These attempts have all met with failure as well. And there, at the center of it all, was Calypso. He presided over everything from his lavishly decorated office on the top floor of his skyscraper. He stared out of the massive glass window, looking down onto the streets. His necktie was bright red, a striking contrast to the all-black business suit he wore. His shoes were of such bright, shiny quality that you could see your reflection in them. His skin was a sickly pale color, and his hair was limp down to his neck. He stepped away from the window and back to his desk, made of course from the finest mahogany. He sat down and turned on a small radio he kept nearby. It was tuned to a station that played mostly classical music. After a few minutes, his desk phone rang. "Yes," Calypso said in his proper, well-mannered voice. "Sorry to disturb you, sir. Mr. Kane is here to see you," the female receptionist said. Good. Send him in," Calypso replied, hanging up. After a few minutes, the office door opened, and in stepped a tall, bald, overweight man in a white tank top and baggy white pants with pink polka dots. He carried a plain paper bag in his right hand. This was Needles Kane, more commonly known by his alias, Sweet Tooth the Clown. Sweet Tooth was wanted for multiple killing sprees all over the country. He was noted for driving an old beat-up ice cream truck with a giant clown head on the top. Needles was a frequent competitor in Twisted Metal, even winning on several occasions. Many people have wondered how he has been able to survive so many competitions. Rumors have swirled that Calypso had given him supernatural powers. Good to see you again, Needles. How's the truck? Calypso said, calmly sitting at his desk. She's getting outfitted for the contest as we speak. My first event's tonight, Needles replied. But get to the chase. You need something special from me this time. What is it? Calypso smiled and opened one of his desk drawers. He pulled out a large black and white photograph of a man about 5 feet 5 inches tall, with short black hair, dark sunglasses, and wearing a black 3-piece suit with a white dress shirt. He looked like a government agent of sorts. You remember Dan Goldman, right? Calypso asked. Needles scoffed. Yeah, that pencil-neck wool shark who up and quit. I could snap his neck in like 2 seconds. Calypso shook his head. I know, but this time it's not that simple. He's entered the contest. He is now protected from harm outside the actual events themselves. If you want to rub him out, you have to do it in battle. His first event isn't until tomorrow in Los Angeles. You'll have to wait for your shot. So what's the big deal, Viennas? You think he's a threat? Needles asked. Of course I do. He may find a way to put an end to all of this. I can't let him come out on top. Of course, I may be able to persuade him into using his wish to end his little severance agreement, Calypso said. Wait, agreement? Calypso smiled. When Daniel resigned as my rules master, we drafted a contract explaining the terms of his departure. It was the usual legal mumbo-jumbo. He can't work for other weapons manufacturers. He can't disclose our production techniques to other weapons manufacturers. He gets benefits for a period of time. It's mostly the usual stuff. However, I added one final clause. Upon his death, his soul becomes mine forever. Man, you and these souls. I don't know what you need them all for or all the dead bodies. But if it means I get to do some butchering, I'm all in, Needles said. That's my Needles, Calypso began. This year's Twisted Metal has a special theme to it. I call it, Daniel Goldman, this is your life. I've arranged for many of this year's competitors to be people from his past, people who have axes to grind against him. I figured they would be motivated to hunt him down. On top of that, I've added a special bonus prize. In addition to the standard victory wish, if the winner ends up killing Goldman, I'll throw in an additional $10 million in cash. Now this is what I'm talking about, Needles said with a sinister smile. He then reached into the paper bag and pulled out his trademark clown mask, wearing a demonic grin. He put it on his face and was about to ignite the burners to light the straps of the mask on fire before Calypso stopped him. Can you please not do that in here? He said. Needles scoffed. All right, fine. I gotta finish getting ready, he said before turning to exit the office. And as he did so, he noticed the large painting on Calypso's wall. It was a large, medieval-style castle with a few clouds behind it covering a moonlit sky. He'd seen the painting plenty of times in the past. But as he passed it this time, he could have sworn he could hear people inside the painting wailing in agony. He merely shook it off and left the office. Once he did so, Calypso placed another call. Evers, is the girl ready? Her event is in 1 hour, Calypso said. Yeah, But the only car we got available for our opening event is Crimson Fury, that AMG GT. You sure you want to give her that one? The voice on the other side answered. Calypso paused for a moment to think. Sure, let's not be totally heartless to her. I think this will be a nice little token gesture to show she might actually have a fighting chance. I'd hate for her to die right away, he replied. All right, I'll get her ready, Evers replied before hanging up. At that time, a young girl in her mid-20s was pacing back and forth in a locked room. It was a small, bleak-looking room with a desk chair, sink, and a toilet. The girl had long blonde hair, fair skin, and some scratches on her hands. She had on a torn white t-shirt and faded jeans with black boots. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She paced slowly and trembled in fear as the door opened and two large men in black suits entered. It's time, Allison, one man said in a strong Texas accent. No, please, let me go, Allison pleaded in a southern accent of her own. She tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. The men grabbed her by her arms and dragged her out of the room. They took her through some dark corridors. The whole time she was kicking and screaming for someone to help her. The two men simply ignored her cries and led her to a garage. Parked inside was a bright red Mercedes-Benz AMG GT, a very high-end sports car roadster. No, please, I won't play this game. Help me, Allison screamed. The men let go of her arms and pulled out guns. Honey, Calypso wants you to drive. Now you got two choices. You can drive and die with dignity, or you can take the bullet now and die like the bitch you are. What's it going to be? One of the men said. Allison took a deep breath and quietly moved toward the car. As she got in the driver's seat, she promptly flipped off the two men. She looked around the cockpit and took note of the additional equipment that was in the car. In the passenger seat was an MP5 submachine gun with a loaded magazine, along with two additional magazines. There were also several rockets on the seat and floor. Each one was connected to a mechanical arm that was designed to feed them to a launcher. There was a joystick controller in the center console with a red button on it marked Fire. As Allison pressed the button to start the engine, she noticed the car's infotainment system was also modified to display readouts of the condition of the car. Most notably was the bar at the bottom of the display marked Vehicle Health 100%. Then the radio turned on and Allison was greeted by the voice of Calypso. Greetings, Miss Sorcha, and welcome to Twisted Metal. Thank you all for watching. That concludes chapter 1 of this live reading. As I work on this, I will do additional segments of this with more chapters, more live readings. I can't commit to a time frame because it all depends on when I have time to work on this. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll join me next time when the story continues. Until then, this is Dan, checking out.